Before you put your hands on somebody, look down at your belt, your vest, your radio. Look at the empty spaces where equipment could be, but isn't. No cuffs, no baton, no vest. That's your job telling you something. What you need to ask is, what did my company and client actually prepare me to do? Security guards love gear. Let's be real. The belt, the boots, the flashlight, the radio, the gloves, the vest, the little pouches that make you look like you're preparing to invade Kabul. Some of it is useful, some of it is costume, because gear changes how people see you. More importantly, it changes how you see yourself. You put on a tactical vest, suddenly you feel more official. You add cuffs, suddenly you feel like you're supposed to arrest people. You add a baton, suddenly every argument starts feeling like it might become a use of force incident. But the gear doesn't create authority. A pouch on your belt doesn't rewrite state law. A pair of cuffs doesn't make you a cop. A black uniform doesn't mean the company will back you when you decide today is the day you become Batman. The belt can help you do your job. It can also trick you into thinking your job is bigger than it really is. If your company wanted you making arrests all day, they'd build a job around that. They'd train you for it. They'd write policies for it. They'd issue equipment for it. They'd explain reporting procedures. They'd tell you when to call police, when to disengage, when to detain, and what happens after the cuffs go on. They wouldn't just throw you at a lobby desk with a radio from '07 and say, "Call us if anything happens." That's not an arrest program. That's a warm body contract with a polo shirt, and that's significant. Because when everything is quiet, companies love guards who take initiative. But when someone gets hurt, complains, or a video hits social media, suddenly that same company develops amnesia. We never told him to do that. We don't authorize that. That guard acted outside policy. Now the belt looks different, don't it? No handcuffs is a message. It doesn't automatically mean you can never legally detain anyone. Laws vary, sites vary, policies vary, situations vary, but don't play dumb. If your post doesn't issue cuffs, doesn't train on cuffs, doesn't mention cuffs in the post orders, and doesn't have a clear detention procedure, what exactly are you doing? Because handcuffing somebody isn't just holding them until police arrive. It's force, it's detention, it's risk, it's paperwork, it's camera footage, it's a supervisor call, it's a lawsuit with shoes on. And if your only plan is, well, I saw it done online, you don't have a plan. You have a fantasy and maybe a criminal court appearance date for yourself shortly after that. The second those cuffs click, the situation changes. The person is now restrained. They can fall, they can panic, they can claim injury, they can say they couldn't breathe, their shoulder hurt, their wrist went numb, they were humiliated, they were falsely imprisoned, and maybe they're lying, maybe they're not. Either way, now you're explaining yourself. No firearm is a message shouted through a bullhorn. Don't bring an unarmed security guard to a gunfight, or so the saying goes. That sounds obvious, until something happens. Then suddenly, some guards start thinking like action heroes. They hear yelling in the parking lot. They see somebody reaching into a waistband. They see a robbery, a fight, a threat, and their brains start screaming, "Do something!" But doing something doesn't always mean running toward danger. Sometimes doing something means getting people out, locking doors, calling police, giving a clear description, creating distance, keeping yourself alive so you can actually be useful. If the client wanted armed response, they would have paid for armed coverage. If the company wanted you handling lethal threats, they would have trained, armed, insured, and supervised you accordingly. But if they gave you a shirt, a flashlight, and a radio, read the belt. You're not the cavalry. You're basically a paid snitch. And sometimes, that's the job.
If you work security, are trying to get licensed, or just want better tools for the job, check out my Etsy and guardguides.com pages. I've got study guides, exam prep, templates, report writing tools, resume help, and other digital resources made specifically for security guards. Links are in the description.
No backup is another one. A guard working alone isn't in the same position as a guard working with a full team. Different job, different risk, different decisions. If you're by yourself at 2 in the morning, no partner, no supervisor on site, police 10 minutes away, and some guy decides he doesn't want to leave, that's not the time to prove you're tough. That's the time to prove you can think. Because once you go hands-on alone, you eat the consequences from everything that happens next. He falls, you eat it. You fall, you eat the pavement. In addition to medical costs from injuries sustained from a physical scuffle you had no business business being involved with in the first place. He has a weapon? Now you're in a fight for your life you were never equipped to win. And even if you do win, now what? You're alone with a restrained, angry person, waiting for police, hoping they don't get hurt, hoping their friends don't show up, hoping the camera angle helps you instead of burying you. That's not cowardice, it's math. No written policy might be the loudest message of all, because some companies love gray areas. They won't say, make arrests. They won't say, don't make arrests. They just leave everything vague. Why? Because vague protects them. If you do nothing and the client complains, they can say you should have acted. If you act and something goes wrong, they can say you weren't authorized. Nice little trap, right? That's why post orders matter, training records matter, emails matter, supervisor instructions matter. The smartest guard usually isn't the most aggressive one. That bothers some people. They think restraint is weakness. They think backing off means fear. They think calling the police means they failed. Nope. The job isn't to satisfy your ego. The job is to solve the problem without creating a bigger one. Stand where cameras can see you. Keep your hands visible. Use clear commands. Create space. Call it in. Get descriptions. Move bystanders away. Document everything. That may not feel heroic, but neither does sitting in a termination meeting while your manager pretends they don't know you. Security work is full of fake bravery, but real professionalism is knowing when the situation is beneath your authority, above your equipment, outside your training, and not worth your freedom. Now, this doesn't mean security guards should never intervene. That's not what I'm saying. Some posts are hands-on, some guards are trained, some are armed, some carry cuffs, some work hospitals, bars, schools, shelters, and other places where intervention is part of the job. But that's the point. Those jobs should have structure, training, policy, equipment, backup, reports, supervision, a clear chain of command, not vibes, not "I thought I was supposed to," not "the client looked scared," not "the guy was disrespectful." Disrespect isn't an emergency. Annoying isn't a felony. Looking suspicious isn't a green light to start grappling people. If your post is built for observe and report, then observe and report. If your post is built for intervention, then train like it, document like it, and understand exactly where the line is. Because either way, the belt is talking. You just have to listen. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more guard guides, and be safe.